Cap.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot see.
Well, good evening. It's Geordies here, Geordies there. And you know what it is? We've decided, because we've met each other for the first time in the last few months, I'm not going to bother doing a show because we're just going to get mortal in a restaurant in Newcastle. So we're on the red wine and we couldn't give a... Well, actually, we're not. We're here. Good evening. Welcome to NUFC Matters. Welcome to NUFC Matters. That's where we were an hour ago, believe it or not. But you know what? That's the sacrifices we make for the NUFC Matters community. It's good evening to Steve Hasty, to George, to Neil, to Steve, to Stu, and to Al Walid. We have been reunited, the three amigos. The original three amigos have been reunited today. But we've decided to come on tonight and talk Newcastle United because we've got to. And yeah, 100% we're here. And because me, Steve, and Neil aren't shirkers, we've put ourselves on the top level so that we can talk about Newcastle first, because we've had the most to drink today, 100%, while other people have been grafting and doing what they've got to do. But let's just talk about the last two results, Steve, right?
Yeah.
And the difference in emotions between 2 0-0 results. So 0-0 against Leeds, to some people, felt like 2 points dropped. Last night against Arsenal, wow, that felt like you'd won 3 points. So I'm not being funny, but we're in a weird transition period, aren't we, as a Newcastle fan?
Absolutely.
Because we went in, I predicted a 1-1 draw last night. I genuinely thought we'd get a point out of last night's game, watching Newcastle as I do, home and away a lot of the time. And I've got to be perfectly honest, mate. The Leeds game didn't disappoint me as much as it did other podcasters. And I just genuinely feel that those two results that we've had in our period are, you know, they're going to be pivotal in the season. And with Isak chomping at the bit to come back and likely to be back for the game at the weekend, I just think Newcastle are in a really good position. But give us your rundown on them last two games since we last spoke on this show.
What's the position, Steve? Third.
Third.
That's all.
Quarterfinals of the League Cup.
Quarterfinals League Cup, third in the league. Yeah, I know exactly where people are coming from on the weekend result against Leeds. You know, we all felt as though, we're just going to carry on. We don't get beat at home. You know, we're gonna railroad them. We all thought we're gonna railroad them 3-0. I think 3-0 was the consensus on the Amigos show at the weekend. But you know what? It was a great game. It was blood and thunder. It was one of those games where, I mean, the conditions didn't help. But then you go into last night and we're away from home, and you know what? Absolutely fantastic. I mean, you know, when you cheer for a 0-0 draw away from home, and everybody in the bar, I was with Mitch in the Strawberry, and the cheers that went up when the final whistle went. But not only that, but for the last 15, 20 minutes, everybody was getting into it. The atmosphere was great. And I think that sums up Newcastle's season. 0-0 away from home against Arsenal. And let's not forget, the last team that Arsenal didn't score against was Newcastle United. What does that say? 18 games ago. And they think they're riding on the crest of a wave and they couldn't score against Newcastle United. Absolutely. I mean, we spoke about it earlier on, and you know, obviously it's off air and all that type of thing. But no matter what I say, Mitch is going to come in with exactly the same, and I'm sure Steve and Stewie and Alweed and George are going to say exactly the same. You cannot knock Newcastle United at the moment. You cannot knock. We're getting the results. We're getting the points. We're still sitting in third in the league. For goodness sake, how are the lads?
Okay, Neil, we'll come to you, mate.
Yeah.
Honestly, what a weekend, what a Christmas, I guess. You know, Leeds United. I don't care what people say. It's still a tough game. Lee Ryder at the press conference described it as a derby game, but you know what? 0-0. Newcastle they tried their best. They didn't have their shooting boots on, but then they went to the Emirates and they held out against the team that's demolishing everybody, and put that against the Man City result at home, 3-3. Wow, you know what?
Yeah.
We are title contenders now, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's got to start winning those games against the big teams.
We talked about it this afternoon about changing the narrative. You know, if you'd looked at those 3 games when the season restarted, Leicester away, Leeds at home, Arsenal away, would you have taken a draw, a win, and a draw? And I think most people would have. So what we've got is a win, a draw, and a draw. It's the same thing in terms of points. But actually, in terms of performance, we're probably due a bit more than that. I love the fact that we've got up everybody's nose, that these shithouse mags are back in business, and by God, have we really upset a few people. And we're going to keep upsetting people. And do any of we care? I thought it was a very, very interesting point that Damien Spellman brought up on Twitter today, is when does time management become, or game management become gamesmanship? And it probably depends on who's on the receiving end of it at the end of the day. And there's a narrative that people now suddenly want to introduce, which they never did when Fergie was getting Fergie time. They never introduced it when Liverpool were shithousing games. Never. And suddenly they want to talk about it now. It's bollocks. At the end of the day, we're upsetting people. We're getting up people's noses, and long may it continue. And last night, watching Arteta lose his absolute shit on the sidelines was hilarious, because that was the start of the downfall for them in that game. That mood just emanated from the dugout into the pitch, and the more frustrated he got, the more frustrated the team on the pitch got, and the better we looked. I think we've done so well with the squad we have. We're punching way above our weight, and we'll continue to do so. And the more we can open opportunities to free up the FFP and bring more people in, it's just going to get better from here. And watching that last night was, it was fantastic. It's fantastic to be the bad guy sometimes, and I don't care what anybody thinks about it. As much as Leeds were due some praise for what they did to us the other night, we are due a lot more praise for what we did last night against Arsenal. And we're not going to get it, because you've even got people like Keith Hackett whinging on Twitter about how there should have been 10 minutes of extra time and da-di-da-di-da. Sorry, no. That referee lost control of the game by midway in the first half anyway. It took Kieran Trippier to calm him down.
Yeah.
You know, Kieran Trippier had to have a word with the referee, and you can see it happening. And it's like, that's just crackers. But this is where we're at. And then when you see some of the meltdowns today, there's one Arsenal account on Twitter that's had a massive sort of tinfoil hat conspiracy theory meltdown, even accusing them of being associated with RAF bases that have been closed for 20 years. You know, it's because they're looking for straws to grasp at because of how they've been done. Well, they've done themselves. They've done themselves, and we've just helped them to it. And long may this continue. I'll take this all day long. It's absolutely enjoyable.
George, it was a hell of a result last night. I mean, you know, and it was, because I think we all sat there. I'm pretty sure you did as well, looking at the TV and watching the game, listening to the game, however you took it in, going, you know what? We've been here in the last few years. When you go to Arsenal, when there's a game which looks as tight as that, inevitably there's going to be a penalty at the end of the game. There's going to be an own goal. There's going to be a goal. Newcastle are going to lose 1-0, 2-0, whatever's going to happen here. But you know what? You watched that last night. You watched Kieran Trippier, Fabian Schär, Sven Botman, and Dan Burn and Nick Pope. And you just thought, you know what? No one's going to beat these lads because they're absolutely superb. And I thought it was great at the end, watching the Sky interview with Dan Burn, a Geordie lad from Blythe, who essentially stands there and just gives a really good account of what's gone on. And I think I gained a lot from the interview with Dan Burn, because ultimately he stood there and he just told you know what? It's a great team. It's got a great mentality. We're playing for each other. We're playing for the manager. We believe in the philosophy. And you know what? We're good at what we do. And I thought, fair play to your son. You've actually nailed it there. What did you think of the whole thing last night, George?
Well, not just last night. I'll go back to the Leeds game, because what maybe you do or don't know is that the Leeds game was played on my birthday. So I was hoping.
Well, happy birthday, George.
I was
happy
hoping for a
21st.
result. But it still was a great game, as games against Leeds are. But I also, in the Leeds game, went into a reflective mode, because can I take you back 12 months to the game we had at Ellen Road with Leeds, when we got 23% of the possession and John Joe Shelby stuck a dead ball in the bottom corner of the net, and we got 3 points when we'd all been praying for one. And that was the start of the revolution. And the revolution's still going on. The revolution's still going on. So the final result against Leeds was slightly disappointing. But we're still, they got at us. They did to us what we did to them last year. But we withstood it. We fought it off, and that's got to be a big thing, that the team can stick together with tough matches like that. Now, last night was a superb football match by anybody's stretch of the imagination, and I'm going to be extremely controversial. Well, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Botman's display last night at centre back was possibly the best centre back display that I've seen in 70 years of watching Newcastle United.
I agree.
Now I've seen them all. Brennan, McGrath, the Prince. You name them. I've not seen anybody with as cool a head as that young man. And I say young man, he's only 22. God's sake, what he's going to be like when he's 30, it's incredible. Last night was absolutely fantastic. And I echo Neil's comments. Isn't it wonderful today to see all the upset Arsenal fans and everybody other fans who don't want to succeed? I mean, there's the bloke that writes for Aston Villa. Have you seen his beating a bit in the Twitter today? He's a Villa fan, and he comments about the two teams and says two teams with this, that, and the other. And of course, with Newcastle having spent that vast sums of money on this team, it's slightly disappointing. Christ, they spent more on one defender, Aston Villa, than we spent on a whole back five. So where's his brains? That he's obviously sitting on them because they're not in his head. If that's his football mentality. So last night was absolutely fantastic, and so exciting. I mean, it just raised the hackles from start to finish. And I agree with you, Steve. It's Dan Burn's interview is like many of the others. That's another thing about this group of players, how many articulate players they are, from Trippier across the back to others in the team, and even some of the newer ones. Bruno, his comments about things, what he thought about Arsenal, all the rest of it, very intelligent. Very intelligent. So it sounds like they talk about these things at length as a group, and I'm glad they do, because it's great. Long may it continue, and I'm like the rest of you. I'm on the journey and enjoying the ride, and I'll enjoy it even further For the next month or so, I might not be able to see much of it, but I'll still enjoy it. But yes, great, Steve. Couldn't have been better.
Oh, fantastic. Steve Wilkinson, good evening, mate. And
Hi.
you know what? It's weird, isn't it? It's weird being in this situation because 12 months ago on this platform, we were, talking collectively about Newcastle being a team in relegation position and would they go down and how would that affect things now that the takeover had gone through. And, it was a period of uncertainty, but 12 months on, we're now sitting third in the league in the quarterfinals of the League Cup with a home tie against Leicester. We've got an FA Cup game looming. And we've just gone through a winter period after the World Cup with three tough games. Bournemouth in the League Cup, which was never going to be easy. It's a Premier League team, and Newcastle's reputation in the League Cup is poor. Leeds United at home, which is Lee Ryder described it as a derby. Well, look, it's the closest we've got to a derby at this moment in time because Newcastle and Middlesbrough and Sunderland are so far apart at this moment in time. And then you've got Arsenal, top of the league, scoring goals left, right, and centre, leading the league, for most of the season. And the only team that they've not scored against is Newcastle United, who they played at the back end of last season. So we've now gone in against them last night and managed to keep a clean sheet again. It's an amazing time, really, for me. It's still one of those pinch yourself moments, Steve.
Well, I don't think we're ever going to let another goal in.
It doesn't feel like it, does it?
Apologies to Stu because he forgot to put the Super 6 on, but I predicted 0-0. And the reason I went that is that I really do feel is that the back is so solid now. We've only let 11 in all season. Some of them were, 5 of them were against Liverpool and Man City. So you take the others. 2 or 3 of them were consolation goals. Fulham in the last minute when we changed the team. Southampton virtually in the last minute. There's not many teams that are getting anywhere near with the defence that we've got. Nick Pope just catches the ball easily. It doesn't look like any threat to him. And Leicester City, for example, they ended up with 0. All 3 teams have, we've talked about getting 5 points. Nobody scored against us in these games. It was the 82nd minute before Leicester had a shot. The Leeds had, I think, 2 shots on target that Nick Pope saved. One that he leapt up and pushed it around the post. But the second half, we were camping their half, and I think if it hadn't been for the weather conditions, I think that played a big part in stopping us getting anything out of that game. And then last night, as I say, I went into that. I thought, I think we can, with the defence we've got, we can hold them. And apart from that first 7 or 8 minutes, really, when Arsenal looked as though they could get to us, we played brilliantly after that in the defence. We doubled up particularly on the left full back side with Joe Linton supporting Dan Burn to stifle Saka, who rarely got in the game. On the left wing, Trippier was in control of for his name now, Martinelli. They just didn't look threats. And then when they got into the penalty area, we just crowded them out. And it was an overall fantastic performance. And the fact that we aren't letting goals in bodes well for going forward because you're going to have to, I think we will start scoring goals. We've got Isaac to come back. We've got Wilson, who probably still wasn't 100% last night. But it wasn't a night where I think we were likely to be, troubling their goal too much. It was going to be a defensive performance, but it was on the front foot. We pressed them still. We even got to that point where Wilson crowded the goalie out, and we nearly got something out of that. And it was just a great performance. And as I say, I don't. You start to forget what it's like letting the goal in. The last time we saw a goal against was Rayo Vallecano when Matt Targett put it in, and it was a strange feeling seeing us concede a goal. We just don't concede, and when you get that belief, and they must have the same belief, is that they're so solid that the other team is going to have a hell of a job to score against us, so that the worst scenario, we're going to get a 0-0, and likely we're going to get 3 points.
Didn't they say last night it was something like 1,040 minutes since we conceded a goal?
Well, I think he said early on it was 800, but I think it was quite early on. It was about 890, so probably by the end it got to that.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Great. It's an amazing situation to be in. Stu, what did you make of it last night's game?
Good evening and happy New Year from the Champions League places, eh?
Happy New Year!
But I'm actually quite a bit upset because I'm not in the top 3 of alcohol intakes on the panel today. What's going on here? Looking at that top row, it looks like I've walked into an old people's home that have just opened a sherry on Christmas Day. They're all sitting there with big grins on your faces. I'm very, very envious. I travelled back today from Dubai, so I've been drying out. But then in the duty free, we found I forgot a new vodka that's got raspberry, rhubarb, and vanilla flavour. So I'm going to give that a sample. Oh yes.
No.
So it's for medicinal purposes to help me sore throat. So I thought I'd give that a go. But if you look at if the first question was about Leeds, I watched that with Mitch in Dubai, and I wasn't upset at all. I thought the energy was there, the effort was there, it was everything but the result was there. And we always cried for many years that we wanted a team that tried. By God, these boys tried, don't they? So we can't really fault the effort. And if that game had finished 3 or 4-0, Leeds couldn't have complained about it. But they picked themselves up. Again, that game wasn't played in the best of weather conditions either. And they went down to London against the league leaders and it went toe-to-toe with them and very much deserved a point. And if you look at how proud we should all be of Eddie Howe, if the fact that he was so assured and self-composed compared to Arsenal's manager, who was just an Arsenal, wasn't he, and self-combusted on the touchline. And you can see the differences, and this is where you get the respect. And if he's feeling already Arteta about this title race, then we might just catch them after all.
He's gone. I give him time.
Stuart.
Yep, he's either had a phone call or he's paused in, or he's gone in mid-flow. So I'm going to take him out and bring him back in. Al-Walid, what did you make of yesterday's game?
Well, first of all, Happy New Year, Newcastle, and to you lads.
Happy New Year, mate.
Happy birthday, Mr. George.
Thank you.
Regarding the game, the funny thing, I have many friends who are Arsenal fans here in the Middle East, and they were afraid from Newcastle. So this is really was make me happy, because we remember maybe a little more than 1 year ago. Remember when we celebrate Andy Carroll game, Andy Carroll goal against Arsenal, and I think FA Cup. We were happy because we scored a goal against Arsenal. Not that we received many goals from Arsenal. So this is a big change. Yesterday, before the game, I wasn't worried. I was excited. I wasn't afraid. Just really, we really brought for the team. I think Newcastle reach 50% to be a perfect team. We need now to work on the other 50. Still, I'm not happy with to be honest, not happy with the front line at all. We need to raise the quality there, and I think we can do with a proper couple of signings, and hopefully at least to qualify for Champions League and maybe go final at Wembley.
Ooh. Been an interesting time. If we do, it's certainly been an interesting season so far. And for Newcastle United fans, it's a journey which we're going to enjoy. And I think the big thing that me and Mitch and Steve spoke about today was just that we're just got to enjoy it. Don't get down. Don't start, talking about the downsides of this and that and the other. Don't criticize things. Just enjoy it. Remember where we were 14 years ago. Okay, I'm gonna play the ads now, and we'll be back after this. A big thank you to all our sponsors, as always. Thanks to Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, and our website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensaries, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. You can find them at thegohd.com. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria, and you can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to make an order, give them a call on 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to Blowhole Breweries, you can get a selection of beers, and the cans are in the design of the old Newcastle United entertainers strips. Blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Melly's Carpets and Beds, laying our reputation one recommendation at a time. The best quality around at the cheapest prices. Melly's Beds and Carpets.co.uk. Email sales@mellysbedsandcarpets.co.uk or give Melly a call on 01670 632 216. And thanks to United Group Travel Limited, UK Coach Holidays in Morpeth, 01670 362 460 or mobile 07957 141 654. Graham, your driver, Beverly answering your calls and looking after you on your tour. Some great deals coming up there. Get yourself onto the website to check them out. Thanks also to Media Arts, who do all of our videos and help us with the technological side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the channel, then hit the subscribe button below. Hit the thumb up, which is the like button, which does us a big favour with the algorithm. And click share. Share it to Newcastle United, Facebook groups or Twitter accounts or your own social media to help our community grow. And if you want to join the channel, hit the join button. And for as little as $1.99 a month, you can get some members-only videos and chances to win some fantastic prizes. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. Don't forget as well that we do events through NUFC Matters. And this one is the next event coming up, Friday the 24th of February, an evening with Newcastle United legend Steve Howie. Friday the 24th of February, Tyneside Irish Centre, and tickets are available at £50 from newcastlelegends.com. If you also go onto Voucher and search for the event, you can pick up a bargain on there. Don't forget, we also support the food bank on this channel. www.nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk is where you can find the Matchday Bucket. You can make a virtual donation to the Matchday Bucket 365 days of the year. Keep helping the food bank in Newcastle. Okay, that's the end of the ads. And as always, on Geordies here, Geordies there, we've got a very special little section, and it's called Ask George. So, George, are you ready?
Yes.
Well, I hope you are, because there's a couple of questions here, which I'm going to put out here, but I've got to find the... Don't drink with Mitch before you do the show. Question for George. Has George ever seen a player that's been booked more than twice when being on the bench on both occasions like Lascelles?
Sorry, see the player. I cannot read that, I'm afraid.
But he says, have you ever seen, because right, Mitch has explained to you.
Yes, sadly.
Have you ever seen a player, is anybody in your history that you've watched the game since the 50s, George, that's ever been booked when he's never been on the pitch like Lascelles?
Yes. You've heard us talk about somebody who really had his career at Southampton. Ken Wimshurst. It was just after subs came in, and Ken Wimshurst had that experience, exactly that experience.
Wow.
And I suspect he was one of the first to have that experience because it was very early on.
Okay, Gary says, question for George. What's the best question you've answered over the last few months?
That one.
Yes. Yes. Well, the best question I've answered. Good grief, that's a good one because there's been some stonkers. Well, I like the ones about the different players from different eras. You know, who did this and who did that. I always enjoy those ones as much as anything because, as you lads know, is that you know, I have a theory that once we get into the late 50s with the Jackie Milburns, etc., he was one of the first to realise that footballers had to become athletes, not just footballers. And he was one of the first to have what I would call a six-pack. He could take his shirt off alongside Ginola, and that was back in the late 50s. Whereas the others that were in the Wembley dressing room would be too shy to take their bloody shirts off because most of them had beer bellies. So, you know, times changed, and for me, that was when it changed. And they're the kind of questions I've enjoyed answering because it's all in my history of Newcastle United. And you know, long may it continue. And could I thank people that have been putting messages on the bottom as well about my birthday? I can't actually see all of them because of my eyesight at the moment. But thank you all very much. I do appreciate it. And at the moment, with things as they are with Marjorie and so on, it is a great comfort to get it from you. And so thank you very much indeed. A bit of advice about my eyes. If your optician suggests you've got cataracts, the first thing you do is you go out the door and you go up the street, you find another optician and get a second opinion. Don't tell them what the first one said. Get a second opinion. I wish I had done that, I tell you. Never mind, that's another issue.
Not a good time for George.
I'll stop there.
No, it's not a good time for you, George. And, you know, fingers crossed you get a little bit of resolve to this because it sounds like it's been an absolute nightmare for you, mate. And the NUFC Matters community certainly is 100% behind us. Fingers crossed you get things sorted. Tom says, question for George, a little bit lighthearted. He says, did you get anything nice for Christmas, George?
Yes, always do. You know, with having Christmas and my birthday straight after, when I was younger, and even now, people say, well, did you get one present or did you get two? Or did people just give you a big one and say that's got to do for your birthday as well? Well, when I was a kid, I used to enjoy it because my family tended to give us a present for Christmas or birthday, then give us a handful of money for the other one. So after Christmas, I always had a pocket full of money to spend. That was great. I loved that. That was fantastic. It isn't quite like that now, but some of the gifts I've had off my family have been very thoughtful, and some I've had to have a smile about. I got some beautiful cologne off my granddaughter from Dubai. She always says that Arab men smell much better than English men, and that's why she brings the cologne from Dubai, which is lovely, and everybody comments on it. One of the presents which I thought was thoughtful, but I wondered about was, well, it was a hint, was some Wiltshire Farm foods vouchers. It'll save us having to cook a few meals, but you know, yeah, is there a message there? I don't know, but yes, I always get some nice things for me Christmas.
George, present. Important question here. PDK says, George, should Steve Hasty still have his Christmas tree up?
Yes.
Yeah,
he's got the 6th of January.
Right. Can let's put this right. The Christmas tree is up because we've got potentially a visitor tomorrow who hasn't seen our Christmas tree. The Christmas tree will be down on Friday, the 6th. George is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, you've got.
There you go. That's case closed.
Stu's down though. It's Stu's tree down.
No, that'll be down in April or something.
ready to go back.
I've got to say as well, George, because my birthday is a week before Christmas, and I agree exactly what George has said, because everybody gets a Christmas tree and everybody gets celebrated. And when your birthday is at Christmas, you never ever get what you want, and you can guarantee that when your birthday is around at Christmas, it always doubles up. Guaranteed, George, and you're absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on.
I actually did that because it looked like something was on Stu's top. I thought he'd been drinking and missed I thought he had the biggest drink problem in the world. He'd missed his mouth. But it's a reflection. It's a reflection of his phone. John says, question for George, is your magnifying glass helping?
Yes, and thank you for sending one, John. That was great. It has at least allowed us to do get rid of emails and things on my computer, which I wasn't being able to do otherwise. But I'm now looking again. I've already spoke to somebody about getting something that allows to magnify an A4 page so I can read the page. And if I can do that, then I can start to do all sorts of things, like talk to you again, Steve. But yes, as a stopgap, the magnifying glass was great. So thank you, John. That was very kind of you. Very
great
thoughtful.
Stuff. Last one from Barry says, has George ever thought about writing a book on his career through the ranks at Newcastle because he's got some amazing stories?
Yeah, sound went weird there, Steve, again.
Have you ever thought about writing a book, George?
Oh, yes. I mean, I have to tell you that my last professor at the university, Professor Caldwell, whenever I see him, he says exactly the same thing. What can we collaborate and write a book? He wants to write a book which is part professional, naval architecture, and part personal. And he wants to put his personal stuff in, and he wants me to put personal stuff in about being a magistrate, about working with the Home Secretary, and all of that, and all the other things, and of course a little bit of football experience as well. So yes, I've thought about it. I just never got round to doing it. I might. You never know.
I am going to extend this because lots of people ask questions for George. Who's the most overrated player that you've played with? Was there ever one
that I've played with?
Yeah, because you obviously were at Newcastle. You played with a few players, and
probably one that people can't remember. A big lad who was a centre forward called Carl Wilson. He got one game in the first team just on the basis that he was he was 6'4" tall and 6'4" wide, and he was another one that realised that footballers need to be athletes. His father was a personal trainer, and that's a long time ago. And Carl had muscles coming out of his ears, but he was not the best footballer in the world, and he had an attitude problem. Carl, the Carl I remember, as well as being overrated, was that we were playing in a Northern Intermediate League match at Hunters Moor, and we were playing Sheffield Wednesday, I think. And the manager of the ends, the nursery team, as we called it in those days, was Mr. Hughes, who was an ex St. Aloysius head teacher, and he tended to be a bit head teacherist when he was running the team, and he used to get right up Carl's nose. And from the touchline throughout this game, you could hear Ted Hughes saying, "Oh, Wilson, this," just like a head teacher would, Wilson that and Wilson the other. Well, Carl got the ball just in our half in the centre circle, turned around and wellied it into the top corner of our own goal. So he turned the touchline and said, "Wilson." But didn't do him any harm, because about 4 weeks later he was in the bloody first team. But he was super athlete, but as far as football was concerned, greatly overrated. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everybody for sending your questions in for Ask George. We'll get back to them again next week. Lots of comments and lots of things coming in from everybody in the chat. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Look, never forget Dave, because this guy did a hell of a lot for the channel, but also did a hell of a lot for the food bank. And Rachel, one of our moderators, says 1 year since we lost our fellow moderator, Dave Harrison. We miss you, Dave. You were a true gentleman. And I think all of us can say 100%. We concur with that particular thing. And likewise, my mate John, the anniversary of John's death, John from Jab, who was a sponsor of the channel, anniversary of his birthday yesterday, and coming up to the anniversary of John's passing towards the end of the month. And sadly for me personally, I lost a good friend yesterday, Rob Orton, who passed away at the age of 45. A DJ in Newcastle, in South Shields, and in Ibiza. Well-known guy in Paradise. If you used to go to the nightclubs in Ibiza in 1995 and onwards, Rob used to be one of those DJs you would see out there, but also somebody who did 9 Bar, did the Dog and Parrot with me, did Idols as well with me. Somebody who was well known on the Newcastle scene and in the South Shields scene, sadly passed away on New Year's Eve, 45 years of age, no age at all. God bless you, Rob. Pleasure to know you. And he did a lot of the Legends events as well, did a lot of sound. Me and Steve and Neil were discussing it today. He did the sound for the Shearer Do at the Town Theatre, and the do that we did with Peter Beardsley at the Town Theatre, and the one we did with the Legends at the Town Theatre as well. So some of you will have met him and seen him 100%. But God bless all of them. Thoughts with them and their families, especially Rob's, because it's so raw at this moment in time. Roger says George's book will be called Ask George.
Spot on.
Yeah, I think he's right 100%. And Ian, reaching out to you, mate. You're in the chat there. He says, sorry people, I'm an avid watcher, but I haven't joined in the fun as I've been recovering from a stroke. Feel free to say hello. Ian, hello from me.
Hello from everybody.
Get well soon, Ian. Yeah, keep plugging away, mate.
Difficult thing to recover from that 100%. Yeah. Okay, Al-Walid, I'm going to start with you. The transfer window is open. What would you like to see come from Newcastle? And bear in mind that the press conferences that Eddie Howe has given, the one thing that he has said on more than one occasion is financial fair play, FFP. And I think he's pointing to a fact that Newcastle are going to be careful in this window, but will go big in the summer. Obviously now, John Joe Shelby's injured. Matt Targett's injured. He's got a decision to make on what he's going to do with Dubravka, who's back at the club now. What do you think's going to happen in the transfer window? What would you like to see happen in the transfer window?
Regarding FFB, when I ask anyone regarding any work with Newcastle, he always come with FFB, and it's true, but I don't think it's established from. We still can get good players or great players without reaching the red line of financial fair play. So we still can have like 3 deals, 3 good deals, and we are still going to be far from the red line of financial fair play. So I think this is just maybe just to the other clubs need to know that our position now different than comparing to last year. Last year we were in relegation battle, and we were very in dangerous situation. So they tried to take advantage of us, but now they never can take advantage of us. We want to players. This is his price. You agree? You are not agree? Move to other target. So I believe financial fair play, it's not an issue. We still have I think much more amount until we reach that limit. Of course, I want a number 10 position, or no need to call it number 10. We need a player behind the striker. We need that, and we notice we see Bruno play the 2 roles: defense midfielder and attacking midfielder. We need someone and with all respect to other players, no need to mention, but they can't be the first choice to achieve our goals. So we need that number 10. Maybe we bring number 6 and we make Bruno forward, as we discussed it with you guys. We always discuss this idea, and we need I think a winger as well. So I think I will finish with this. We remember all the statement from Redad and all and Eddie Howe that when we found the right player, the money is not an issue.
Okay, same question to you, Stu. Just transfer window. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I get confused. I'm a bit too old-fashioned. I get confused with all this number 4s and 6s and 8s and 10s. You know, right? That centre midfielder, attack midfielder, defensive midfielder. But for us now, the transfers I think will become more difficult. And I'm not saying that on a financial from a financial outlook. It's a shrinking pool, because it's not just the ability that we're trying to sign; it's the personality as well. But also there have to be an improvement on what we've got. And we're sitting third in the league, you know, so you can say, oh, well, that player's better than that player, but will he fit into the team? Will he fit into the changing room, the squad and everything else? And then is he available? Because we do have money. And Albany is quite right. We can spend money, of course we can. And we're not Chelsea, you know, we can't spend as much as them. But at the same time, if we want to go and sign someone, we can. And we've proved it with Sven Botman, we can go back for players. And it's common knowledge that they bidded twice for Madison. And I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't tried, or they will try to get him in as early as possible. And, you know, to me, it's a smokescreen. I don't think Eddie Howe or any one of the owners are going to sit there and say, yeah, we've got 150 million to spend this time. We're going to spend even more in the summer, because it just inflates the prices. So they will err on the side of caution when they're asked questions about it. It's the right way to do it as well. It's the sensible way to do it. And yes, of course, we'll spend more money in the summer, because that's when we'll get a lot of the new sponsorships coming in as well. It can be justifiable. But as we all know, the transfers, you spend 60 million on someone, you don't give them 60 million, you spread it over the term of the contract, don't you? So don't let the financial fair play put us off signing anyone. If we had a likelihood, I would say Madison would be. And ideally, I would love us to go and compete with Bellingham. I don't think it's realistic, but I'd love to go and get him and make that your statement. But we should also be looking to bid for players from other teams. If Al Walid's saying someone on the left side of the front three, let's go and put a bid in for Rashford, see how they like it. You know, and it'll just start noising them up again, because they're really panicking about Newcastle now, because we're the only team in the world that has to try and defend away from home. It was a brave battle in Leeds display against Newcastle, but it was disgusting of Newcastle to do it at Arsenal only about 8 days later. So it's, to me, it's marvellous. I love it when it comes on us like that, because it shows that the other ones are rattled, the press are rattled, and it does a lot of our job for us as a team as well, because it creates a siege mentality. So long may it continue. But back to the transfers, yeah, I'd be very surprised if we don't add in this month. And I think there will be at least one signing that's going to be like, wow, this is us showing that we're pushing for these Champions League places that we've remained in for a good number of months now.
Steve, I can't do a breathalyzer on you, but Dave in the chat said everybody on here is drunk apart from George.
Diet Coke for me today so far.
Steve, are you drunk?
No, I've had Diet Coke, but I might have a couple of whiskies tonight just to calm down after last night, because it was pretty nerve-wracking, really. And
thoughts on the transfer?
Yeah. Well, I hate the transfer windows, the two of the year, because all you get is all this speculation about players we're going to get, we're linked with. I listened to you talking to Ross yesterday, and people were saying, well, there was one that somebody said, this lad was supposed to be coming on the 2nd of January. Where do we get that sort of information from? The club are saying absolutely nothing. And so
Italy squad. We're getting nobody knows what the hell.
In some ways, it translates to the way that we're giving shithousery on the pitch. We're giving shithousery to the media about what's going on the transfer window. And I think we will come out with some shock. And I think there'll be some creative accounting going on that'll mean that we're not need to worry about the amount of money. I'm sure we'll spend as Barcelona. We're doing sort of television money that's going to come up in 5 years' time that'll get us. We also haven't tapped into the loan market yet. We keep forgetting about that. That's going to cost us virtually nothing. I mean, they're not free these days, but getting loans. But we've got no loan players, and we can certainly get 2 or 3 players on the loan market. I think we've got to get somebody in. We've got. I was just totting up with the games now coming thick and fast. We've got potentially about 5 cup matches still to come in between now and the end of February. If we get into the semi-final of the League Cup, and there's at least one more round of the FA Cup, if not a replay against Sheff Wed or that one, all before the end of February, and the final, of course, at the League Cup. 2 things that might happen: we're going to get injuries. And the way was he calling it, Andy Magley was going last night. I think I was getting worried about getting sendings off and suspensions, because I think if Trippier hadn't intervened and calmed him down at half time, I thought that was absolutely brilliant when he made the he did this point to his head, and it was the sort of thing you would say to one of your own players. But when he was actually saying to the referee, and I think it was almost saying, think about it before you do anything, because the way it was going, he was going to clearly book everybody that was moving. And every tackle he was going to give a yellow card, because he'd set a precedent. So with that concern about injuries and suspensions possibly, I think we've got to strengthen the squad. I'm certainly worried about the midfield if Bruno goes, and especially if Shelby's not around, who drops into that slot. But I would like to see 2 or 3 brought in, and decent players as well. And I think there's plenty, and I'm sure they've been looking at them, and in the way that we're not seeing anything, there'll be somebody signed in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, breaking down teams that'll park the bus against us means we need creative players to stir things up. We've got Isak back in full training. He'll be like a new signing, which he is, says Steve. And Sam Hamwood says, is Tielemans actually any good? Got doubts. George, your thoughts on the transfer window?
Well, I'm going to go back to what we were all saying, where I was saying before. I'm enjoying the ride, and everything that comes from Newcastle at the moment tends to be a surprise. And I think what will come out the transfer window will probably be surprises. And more importantly, they'll be well researched, and they'll make sure they fit into what's happening at St James's Park at the moment. Because to disturb that atmosphere and that togetherness would be far worse than buying a marquee signing. I mean, even Gary, what's his name, last night was saying that he was very impressed that we hadn't gone down the what did he call it, the golden tingle market or whatever it was, suggesting that we weren't buying for the sake of buying big money, spending big money. We'd bought sensibly and bought good players. I think what we'll get in the transfer market is some more of the same. We'll get surprises, and the surprises, in my view, will be good surprises. I don't think there'll be any bad surprises. I tend to agree with what others have said as well, is that we need some cover for Wilson, there's no doubt about that, and perhaps to the right side of the front line as well, to some addition. But I don't think there'll be any. I think it'll be great. Is what I'm just looking forward to it, enjoying the ride.
Neil,
yeah, I mean, I think the one thing the last few games have probably showed is we could do with somebody who has the ability to unpick some of the locks. Now, whether that comes from an actual playmaker to slot into the midfield, or whether that comes from a deep line playmaker that then releases Bruno to become more of that lock picker further forward. Not really sure. To trot out a tired old line, Isak becomes like a new signing, because I think again he brings options from the bench that we don't have at the moment. And I think it's clear that having that there as another weapon is useful, if nothing else. So again, I'm happy to roll with it, with however they feel best suited to make the deals work. If they can get, I still remain adamant. If the deal's there to be done, and they see it as good value, it will be done. And everything is fluid and everything is optional. It doesn't necessarily mean we're tied into one way of thinking. I think of the most significant things that Eddie Howe said last night, January's a long month. And it is. And so there's plenty of time for things to develop and change. I don't think we'll be in a hurry to make changes for change's sakes, because the table suggests we don't necessarily need to. But I think Shelby's injury and Target's injury might shape the thoughts a little bit within this window going forward. And I'm happy to roll with whatever they see fit to bring in.
Yep. Steve, your take on the transfer window?
Most important person in the transfer window is Eddie Howe. What Eddie Howe wants, Eddie Howe gets. Eddie Howe is the man who picks the team. So no matter how you buy, the selections on match day come down to Eddie Howe. So Eddie Howe is the most important person in this whole fixture. We can talk about, we can speculate, we can talk about potential signings and such like, but Eddie Howe's the main man, and that's for me is the most important thing for Newcastle United. He chooses the team. He selects the 11. He's the man who makes the decisions on who comes on, who comes off, and we've got to rely on Eddie Howe. And yes, he's going to have a part to play in who comes in. He's already said that he wants to bring in new players. He wants to freshen up the squad. He wants to do what else. But it's the positions that Eddie wants, not necessarily the position that the fans want or that the press think we need. That's the important thing. And we just need to settle down and relax. If it was for me, I would go for the likes of someone like Ward-Prowse or somebody like that. But you know what? It makes no difference what I think. It's what Eddie Howe wants. So let's take it from there.
Yeah. 100%. FA Cup's coming up at the weekend. I'm obviously going to ask Steve and Mitch their predictions on Friday night. But George, FA Cup, we're into quarterfinals of the League Cup. Over to you, George. How do you see that game going?
As you know, Steve, you and I have been doing these historical things, and some of the predictions in those have backfired on me. But I can't see that happening this time, and I think we'll come away with a comfortable victory. Maybe it's 3-0.
Okay, Steve Wilkinson.
Well, Sheffield Wednesday 0 is the first one, because obviously we're not going to let a goal in. I don't know after that. I think it'll be comfortable again, and I think it'll be at least 2-0, possibly 3-0.
Okay. Tom Dixon says he's expecting a tough game. Penman, we're going 3-1, yeah?
Probably, yeah, because it'll depend on what team he puts out. If it'll be a weakened team of sorts, but I don't think it'll be the full wholesale change.
He never weakens the back four, Stu. He weakens every other position, but he seems to play the same goalkeeper and the same back four.
Right. Well, if he does that, then it'll be 4-0. If not, it could be 3-1. But we should win comfortably.
Okay. Al Walid, FA Cup. It's a big trophy for us. It's the biggest trophy, I think, for anybody apart from the Premier League. What's your prediction for the FA Cup game against Sheffield Wednesday, who, as a lot of people have quite rightly pointed out, are flying high, second in League One, but Newcastle, of course, third in the Premier League.
I think it's going to be 4-0. And if we want to make, as Mourinho said, when they asked him about how you get far in this Carabao and FA Cup, he simply answered that we take it seriously. So we hope this is, we put the first squad, either the FA or Carabao, to really reach Wembley.
Great stuff, as always. Pleasure to spend time with Steve Hasty and Mitch today. Steve, take your Christmas tree down, though, before the next show. And as always, great to be part of Geordies here. And thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to the moderators. Thanks to Malverno Red Wine at Portofino's though, because it got us through today's game and tonight's show. Take care, lads. Good night. God
Thanks
bless.
for your good wishes,
Everybody.
everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.